Howard Marks once gave a room full of professional investors a brutal thought experiment. Finish outside the top 10% next year, and you make nothing. Finish in the top 10%, and you collect $10 million. Then he asked one question: what is the very first thing you would have to do to even have a chance? Better research? A smarter forecast? Take more risk? Marx says nobody gave the right answer. The answer was simpler and much more dangerous. Your portfolio would have to look different from most other investors' portfolios. And the moment it looks different, you create a second problem. For a while, it may look wrong. Really wrong. That is the trap behind playing it safe. The choices that make you easiest to defend can also make your result painfully ordinary. Not bad. Not disastrous. Just average. This is not a video telling you to take bigger risks. That would be the lazy version of the lesson. It is about a harder question. When you say you want an above-average result, are you also choosing a process that can only produce average ones? Imagine a moving walkway at an airport. It is smooth. It is predictable. And if everybody stands on the same one, everybody arrives at roughly the same place. That is what a benchmark is designed to do. It gives you a reference point. It makes comparison easy. It reduces the chance that you will look dramatically worse than the people beside you. There is nothing irrational about that. In fact, for many people, matching the market is exactly the goal. The problem starts when we quietly want two things that do not naturally belong together: the comfort of moving with the crowd and a result meaningfully different from the crowd. Marx points out that passive investors, benchmark huggers, and herd followers have a high chance of ending up around average. That is not an insult. It is arithmetic. If a large group owns roughly the same things in roughly the same proportions, the group cannot all be meaningfully above the group. Before costs, the average investor gets the average result. After costs, the average active investor usually gets a little less. So the real question is not, is average embarrassing? The real question is, what result am I actually trying to earn? Now comes the part people usually skip. To be meaningfully above average, you have to be meaningfully different somewhere. Different research. Different time horizon. Different assessment of risk. Different willingness to buy something unpopular or refuse something popular. But different from whom? From the crowd. And that means, for a while, you may look wrong. That is the hidden price. Not just volatility on a screen. Social discomfort. Second guesses. The feeling that everyone else got the memo and you somehow missed it. Marx's point is not that unconventional behavior is heroic. Most unconventional ideas fail. His point is narrower. Conventional behavior is likely to create conventional results. If you never leave the walkway, you never discover whether another route was better. And that is exactly why the idea is so seductive. The crowd gives you cover. If everyone is wrong together, nobody feels uniquely foolish. If you are wrong alone, it feels personal. Here is where this idea gets abused. People hear "be different" and translate it into "be bold," or "buy the weird thing," or "ignore everyone." That is not what Marx is saying. Being different only gives you the possibility of a different result. It does not give you a good result. You can be unconventional and brilliantly right. You can be unconventional and disastrously wrong. And you can be conventional and still have a perfectly fine year. The missing ingredient is judgment, not confidence, not a hot take, not the ability to sound smart after a chart goes up. Better judgment, seeing something the crowd has missed, understanding why it matters, and knowing what could prove you wrong. That kind of skill is rare by definition. If it were easy to copy, it would stop being an advantage the moment everyone copied it. Which is why the most dangerous sentence in investing may be, "I'm different, so I must be right." No, you are only different. The hard part is still ahead. There is one more twist. Even a well-reasoned decision can look terrible before it looks intelligent. The market does not send a calendar invite saying, "Your insight will be validated on Thursday." It can stay uncomfortable for months, sometimes years. This is where a lot of people confuse being early with being wrong, and then confuse being wrong with proof that they should never be different again. But there is a critical distinction. A serious view has a reason, evidence, a time horizon, and a condition that could prove it false. A random bet has a story after it moves. So the real test is not whether a position makes you feel clever today. It is whether you can explain, in plain English, what does the crowd believe? What do I believe instead? And what evidence would tell me I was wrong? If you cannot answer those questions, you are not being contrarian. You are just standing somewhere unusual. So why do smart people still crowd together? Because most of us are not judged only by our final result. We are judged by how strange we looked on the way there. A manager can survive being conventionally wrong. The market did it, they can say. Being unconventionally wrong is harder to explain. Suddenly the decision has a name, a face, and an email trail. That incentive changes behavior. It rewards decisions that are easy to defend today, even if they are less likely to matter tomorrow. And it creates a quiet rule. Never own enough of anything that a mistake could make you look foolish. Again, that rule can be sensible. For a pension fund, a family, or anyone who cannot tolerate a large loss, survival matters more than winning a performance contest. The mistake is pretending the rule has no cost. You cannot demand a seat on the safe walkway and also complain that it never takes you somewhere unusual. So what is the lesson? Not take more risk. Not bet against the crowd. And definitely not, you can outsmart the market because you watched one video. The lesson is to stop asking one strategy to do two incompatible jobs. If your real objective is to stay close to the market and avoid big surprises, that is a coherent choice. If your real objective is to seek something different, admit the price, uncertainty, periods of looking wrong, and the need for actual skill. Howard Marks's framework is useful because it removes the fantasy. There is no formula that gives you above-average outcomes with no chance of below-average ones. There is only a trade-off, and a question of whether you understand the trade you are making. The crowd is not stupid. The walkway is not evil. But it is worth knowing where it goes. Next time an investment choice feels obviously safe, pause for a second. Ask, is it safe because I understand the risk? Or safe because everybody else is doing it too? That difference is where Howard Marks begins.